All right, everybody, welcome. So we just had breaking news just right now, about an hour ago. Elon Musk dropped a tweet saying that the Optimus Tesla bot can now fold a shirt. Let's go ahead and share that. And we've got Dr. Scott Walter with us and Hans Nelson. We've been covering Tesla bot quite regularly. So let's watch this video. Scott, you want to talk on it?
Yes, so from this we can see that Optimus definitely has the dexterity to fold a shirt, but what I want you to do is keep your attention a little bit to the right side as we go through there. You may see a little bit of arm motion a little bit off the screen, which indicates that this is probably being done teleoperated right now. And I think you will just see in a second here an arm, yep, right there. So it seems to be like there's a teleoperator doing it. And Elon did confirm this is not fully autonomous yet, but it will be getting there soon. The other things, of course, to notice is that it seems to be a beehive of activity going on around there. If you see the people walking around in the background, you can see this is probably real time. This is not sped up at all. It seems to be about the right speed. And you will notice there are a lot of different bots there. Now, there's a combination of Gen 1 and Gen 2 bots there. You have to sort of blow it up a little bit closely to be able to tell. In some cases, I'm not quite sure whether it's a Gen 1 or a Gen 2 that we're seeing, but there seems to be a couple of Gen 2s and definitely several Gen 1s there. And who knows what we're not seeing off screen, because this could be a much larger room with other tables with similar activities going on. So right now they are training the bot to be able to do it. And we should not be surprised that the bot has enough dexterity to do it, because it's a little bit over a week ago, we saw the Aloha project where basically a teleoperated bot using off-the-shelf hardware and the simplest grippers you can imagine was able to do tasks similar to this. They weren't folding T-shirts, but they were, making a bed, putting pillow covers on, doing things that, let's say, are the same degree of difficulty, along with cooking and other kind of tasks as what you see here. So we've always said all along the problem has never really been whether mechanically it could be done, because the Aloha project proved what the minimum level of mechanics is that you need to be able to do something of this complexity. The problem has always been the brain, being able to have a neural net which is smart enough. What Aloha proved is that a neural net that's of significant strength of like the human brain will be able to operate a mechanism like this to do complex tasks. And that's what we're seeing here. And the other thing is that when you gather enough training data, it can then become autonomous. So we know from the Aloha project, after 50 repetitions of the same task, they were able to then get it to be autonomous with success rates around 90%. So I imagine we're going to start seeing the same thing here. And again, the release of this video was a little bit unexpected, or maybe it was expected, because we've seen so many other things being released this past week from CES, from Figure and Aloha and others, that it's like, when are we going to hear from Optimus? When are we going to hear from that team? And so clearly they were waiting to have something that they wanted to show us, and now we've seen it.
So let me just give an update here. This is what happened. So about an hour ago, Elon dropped this post on X saying Optimus folds a shirt, and it's a 14-second clip. We've been playing that already. But then he quickly tweeted this out as a follow-up thread. Important note, Optimus cannot yet do this autonomously, but certainly will be able to do this fully autonomously and in an arbitrary environment. Won't require a fixed table with a box that only has one shirt. Hans, why don't you jump in and say, explain what you think he means by all this?
Yeah, this definitely appears to me to be a response to the Aloha video that, if someone else is out there getting some attention for, hey, we can do this, well, Optimus Gen 2 is already a very capable bot, and they've been working on this teleoperation. They've been doing all kinds of things that they could have demonstrated in a video format that, they just haven't bothered to send anything out there. And so I'm sure Elon caught wind of, all the other things that were going on out there. And he's like, hey, let's do something here and put it out. So I think that's what you're seeing. I don't think this is something that really they had to do anything special for. I'll bet you this is very similar to training tasks that they're doing regularly. This looks to be the engineering headquarters there in Palo Alto to me. And this is one of the places where they're doing a lot of this work with these bots. I actually counted a minimum of 6 Gen 1 bots there behind this Gen 2 that we see. And so they've got, quite a number of development platforms. It looks like, from the setup of the room, that this is something that they are doing. They've got this gantry set up to where they can support these various bots at workstations. This is probably something that, they've been hiring teleoperators, and this is probably where those teleoperators come to work, and they come and do sorts of different training tasks here at these tables. And so, yeah, I think that's really good news to see the way that they're approaching this problem right now. And like Scott said, I hope that they do have that feedback loop to where, they could do a task something on the order of 50 times and or us to actually be able to then replicate that autonomously shortly thereafter. Obviously, the architecture that they're working with definitely will get to that level of functionality soon. I don't know, from this video, we can't tell how far along they are in that journey.
All right, I do have the Aloha. You guys have referred to that a few times. This is Google's 3 PhDs showing, bots being able to be teleoperated, do all sorts of things. But let's stick with this for a while. So what Scott has mentioned is if you keep your eye out on this side here to the right here, you'll see every once in a while a hand popping out. That's being teleoperated. So that person is controlling this. And Elon already said that that's the case. Scott, do you see down here? What's that? Is that the charger? And what's that little button there? See that?
It could be. Unfortunately, I'm looking here on a very small screen, but that little yellow button looks like the e-stop button to me that they may have, and it almost looks like a Tesla wall charger, which is sort of funny.
That's right. Yeah.
Not exactly sure what it is, but it seems like the bot is tethered, but the tethering to me doesn't look like it's there to keep it up, maybe to catch it if it falls over, or more than likely it could just be data cabling. So we're seeing it moving around there, and it could just be to help them in accessing the data back and forth. So Hans, I don't know if you, what do you think? Because it definitely does not look like it's there to keep it from
Yeah,
falling over,
so
or maybe to catch it, but it's definitely not supporting it.
that I think, yeah, to catch it is what it looks like to me. That does look like a climbing carabiner that is kind of
Hmm.
holding up that rope or cable there. And so my guess is, yeah, it's attached somewhere down around the pelvis to the bot itself. And then if it were to slip and fall, it would catch it and keep it from hitting the ground in a way that might be catastrophic at this point. That's what it looks like to me. I don't know if there's any. It looks like there are data cables back there as well. And so obviously they're going to have to do something to control it remotely. And so it could be that that is wired instead of wireless. You can imagine they
Right.
probably don't want to build in the architecture that would be necessary for this thing to be operated wirelessly. And so it's link.
Right.
Somebody was
And
asking if that is batteries on the other table. So I think might be referring to this thing right here, though.
it could be, but that could be for a completely different purpose, because I would think all the batteries that Optimus needs should be internal. And
Hmm.
if you have the tethering there, you could also run off of that. So if there are batteries over there, I'm not sure why they're there, what the purpose is. But again, it looks like there's an e-stop button down on the floor to be able to stop something. And whether it's Optimus or some other piece of equipment, it's kind of speculation at this point.
Yeah, I would say they
Yeah, it's
do
a good.
look like 4680 batteries to me. And, maybe they are trying to train the bot how to do some sort of maybe QC operation or some sort of thing that they would do in a factory with 4680s that they currently do with people.
Hmm.
Yeah, so these are 4680 batteries. Maybe they're training them to be able to grab the 4680 batteries. Scott, why would they
Yeah,
have the Gen 1s here still? Like,
that's a good question. And the other question is whether this is a very recent thing or something that was done a little while ago when they still had the Gen 1s around. So it may be that if the Gen 1s are still good enough to be able to do the same training, maybe they don't have enough bots yet for the number of teleoperators they have, and they just want to keep on collecting the training data until they start producing enough. So I'm not quite sure why those are there. I don't think they're necessarily there for parts, because they would have been definitely. I don't think they're interchangeable, because I think they've modified the design so much that I don't think you could take like an actuator from one and put it into the Gen 2 robot or anything else. So that's a good question, and why they have so many of them around there, and why they would intentionally, let's say, be in the scene.
Tell me about so Elon obviously just tweeted out, he's had this. He said, okay, Optimus cannot yet do this autonomously. Certainly will be able to do this fully autonomously and in an arbitrary environment. So won't require a fixed table with a box that has only one shirt. So is he referring to the fact that today industrial robots have to be very, very structured environment, very precise location to grab something and move it? But he's saying that what did he mean by that? Like in an arbitrary environment. Oh, will
Yes,
be
so
able to, once it's
will
fully
be.
autonomous, it's going to be
Yes.
arbitrary. Yeah.
Yes,
Okay.
which means it doesn't have to be a basket. It could be anywhere else. It could just be a pile of T-shirts over somewhere else. It doesn't have to be on a flat surface like this training desk at that particular level. So anywhere else you should be able to find it. I also joked it should be able to do it with something other than a black T-shirt. And being Tesla, we know the training set is only going to be black T-shirts, at least at first. And
Why?
yeah.
Yeah.
But the other thing here is that in some ways this is very unstructured, because every time that T-shirt gets thrown back into the basket, it's in a different location than it was for the first training one. And I guarantee you, when it gets pulled out by the teleoperator, it's always being dropped down in a different position. And it's probably a slightly different technique each time. So the first thing you have to do is figure out, well, where's the front and the back of the T-shirt, and how you want to line it up. Is the neck always going to be the left side or the right side? You just kind of pick it up and arbitrarily start folding it. Clearly the teleoperator is not doing that precisely the same each time. And that's exactly what you want in the training set. You want a random training set. And then it will learn from that random training set how to deal with the fact that things kind of come in randomly. Now, one thing I did point out is that if you remember with the Aloha, I kind of joked I didn't know grad students knew how to cook, especially enough to be able to teach someone else how to cook, albeit a robot. So the same thing's going on here. Very few people actually know how to fold a T-shirt properly. We all do it, but if you've ever gone into a clothing store and look at the professionals there fold a T-shirt, they know how to fold a T-shirt, and they know how to fold it really quick. They know what all the tricks are. And that's almost what they should be doing, is like learning from the pros what is the proper way to train a T-shirt, to fold a T-shirt, because that's what Optimus should be doing, is training it, is folding them like a pro, not like your average person.
Okay, so we've been referring to Mobile Aloha. Let me go ahead and play that. So this is what you and I did a show on this. This is 3 grad students showing that just 2 arms with 2 thumbs can do all sorts of tasks. But everybody thinks it's so mind-blowing, but really it is teleoperated as well.
Yes. And again, what it shows is the minimum level of mechanical dexterity you need to be able to do these tasks. If you look at that, those arms, the fingers are pretty bad, because that's all you have is 2 opposing thumbs, basically. But you've got a really big wrist there that is not going to be able to go into the cupboard and pull things out very easy. But despite the fact they can do a lot of tasks. And again, here's like the laundry task. It was not folding the laundry, but at least it was washing the laundry, which is a pretty big step, that you can see the kind of dexterity you can have when you have a really smart neural net, which in this case turns out to be a human. But if you can get that net trained up enough, it will be able to do tasks like this. So the mechanics is what's limiting it right now. It's the training data and the AI.
Yeah, and here they are folding, in this case, a pillowcase, and also folding.
Which is almost harder than a T-shirt. Was there a T-shirt there?
Yeah.
Oh no, yeah, they were doing something else. I think that's just as hard as a T-shirt. Yeah.
Yeah, sure. But he was just putting the shirt on a hanger.
But sort of the same skill level. Certainly
there
putting
you go,
the pillowcase
right
on is pretty hard. Yeah, there we go.
Yeah.
The same thing. So it can be done.
Yep. So why do you think Elon did this? Why would he do this? Just to make sure that people know that, teleoperated, this bot can do everything that everybody else is showing too.
Why is the Model S Plaid trying to constantly go for records on the Nürburgring? Elon is competitive. Okay, he's not going to be outdone for long.
One of the things that I'm wondering on the, those little packs there's the one on the ground behind him, but then you also see them up on the pedestals behind some of the Gen 1 bots as well. I'm wondering if that is actually the FSD computer for the teleoperator.
That's what I was wondering.
It has to be, and buy the exact same hardware for the teleoperator that then is running inside the bot.
This
and
one?
just kind of
Is
running in
this
up
what you're talking
above,
about?
up a little bit from there. So it's standing straight up on.
This
You'll
thing?
see, yep, that is the exact same thing that is on the floor behind the Gen 2 bot.
Uh-huh.
Yes, and if remember when we saw that before with the teleoperator, with the backpack and everything, it looked like the whole FSD computer and everything was being held by them, because they probably need to have the exact same setup right there to be able to do the training. So it's possible that's what those battery packs are there for. They're not for Optimus, but they're for the teleoperators, for the kit that they have to be able to do the training.
So I think one of the messages, right, Scott and Hans, tell me if I'm wrong, they're trying to show that the bot as designed, Gen 2, is already now ready for scale and production. It could do everything you need it to do. Look how clean it is. And the rate limiting step is autonomous, to be able to teach it and for it to be able to learn. That's what we're waiting for. Otherwise, it's ready to go. Would you agree with that?
I agree. It's the mechanics are good enough for what they need now. They're good enough to do everything you need. All they need to do is get the training data, and then it will start to be able to do useful work in the factory.
Okay. So Mobile Aloha, they said that if you did teleoperation doing a specific task 50 times, it can get to 80% accuracy. Remember? Yeah.
Yes.
And
That's
I think that
expectation.
maybe one of the areas that Elon was talking about in arbitrary environment is that I'm sure for the Aloha version, when they do those 50 training runs, it will work, but it will only work in that very narrow, like
Correct.
on this table with these shirts in this container. So I think that is one of the things that he's specifically referring to is the architecture that they're pursuing should have a much better understanding of the world in general, and it can use that world to abstract a task and be able to do it in, like you said, an arbitrary environment or different types of environments with different objects.
That's a very good point. So Mobile Aloha showed that they can do autonomously, but this one here, for example, in the top right, is going to press that button. It has to be precisely at the exact same location, going to the exact same place. It's not arbitrary. Like if things moved around, they wouldn't be able to do it anymore, to a certain extent, right, Scott?
Right. Yep. And for the most part, the elevator is always going to be in the same place, but the wine glass will not. And a lot of other things will be different. So your T-shirts will be coming out already very differently, different color, different location. The pile is going to be something else. So it'll require a lot more for the robot to be able to come into the household environment, because the household is really very unstructured. But the factory floor has a certain amount of structure to it. So you don't need to get it to work in a fully unstructured environment, just kind of a semi-structured environment, and it should be ready to start to do useful work. So while it's nice for them to be able to show this in this dexterity, it's part of like a skill set you want it to be able to do a lot of sort of the general purpose operations you may be seeing on the factory floor, because it's going to be just flexible items there all the time. The real focus is going to be getting this to do useful work on the factory floor, not getting it ready to work in the house. So this is showing us that you probably could be seeing this in our homes a lot sooner than we expected. And by sooner, I don't mean next year or the year after, but definitely by the end of this decade.
So I have a theory of what's happening here. Okay. So you've got the Gen 2 folding it and it's teleoperated. Then you've got the Gen 1 sitting here. Why? But they're on table. They're also in front of tables. I think basically at this point, they're trying to do training. And so they're trying to get as many bots learning as fast as possible, whether it's Gen 1 or Gen 2, get them doing it, because that's the training that you're going to accumulate.
Exactly. Training data. Yes. And those bots were probably pretty expensive to build in the first place. They're probably still useful, so why not put them to work? And if you already have enough teleoperators, and the problem right now is like we don't have enough bots for the teleoperators to use, or at least the new teleoperators that come in can train on the Gen 1s, whatever, put them to use. And of course, your imagination goes crazy here, because I can imagine rows and rows of these things. I have no idea how big this room is, whether the room is like just that size or whether it's 10 times the size of what we're seeing. So there could be a lot more bots off the screen that we are not seeing that are being trained at lots of different tasks. Because that's what I had always imagined, is that you would have this room full of bots just doing a variety of different tasks to get the training data. And we've seen that from the job listings, that they want to have more and more teleoperators. And so I'm expecting you are going to, literally have a large room full of teleoperators.
You're on mute, Herbert.
Okay, let me get people updated. For the people who just joined, Elon Musk just an hour ago dropped this post on X, and he showed that Optimus is folding a shirt. And he very clearly also said, important note, Optimus cannot yet do this autonomously, certainly will be able to do this fully autonomously, and in an arbitrary environment, won't require a fixed table with a box that only has one shirt. And as you watch this, you can see that it's being teleoperated. If you look at the far right here, just keep your eye on the far right, you'll see once in a while the teleoperator moving their hands, and they're controlling the bot. And so whatever movement they make with their fingers, but look at the fingers too. So look at this, the two-fingered pickup right there. So this is it's a lot more complicated than the Aloha one, which is just pinchers. You can actually control, looks like teleoperation, all 5 fingers as you watch that, as he does that. So, and then as you do the teleoperation, that's what teaches the bot. And eventually it will be able to do autonomously. It'll now know to, using its vision, recognize a shirt and grab it. No one else has been able to show that, that can actually do that that level. So we'll see when that comes.
Yeah, I agree. And some of those hand maneuvers, like that one right there, that doesn't seem natural to me. I'm not sure why the teleoperator is doing that. That's not exactly the way I would do that.
What do you mean? What part?
When the right hand kind of comes over to pick the T-shirt and bring it, see that right there, is that how you would fold the shirt at that point? I'm not sure I would be doing that hand motion. So again, it's rather interesting what the training set's going to look like. It comes down to the skill level of the teleoperator and how much they have folded shirts for a living. So again, my joke was like, oh, do grad students actually know anything about cooking? So why are they teaching a robot how to cook? How do engineers actually know anything about folding T-shirts? So there are some tasks, if they are training Optimus to do that, they may want to have someone sit there and say, all right, who actually knows how to do this task and do this task properly? Yeah, we can all kind of fold T-shirts, but are we doing it the most efficient way? So there's just something a little bit unnatural about the movement when the right hand kind of came over to go there, that the teleoperator was just deciding that's how they wanted to do it. And I would like to see other training sets to see whether it's always done the same way. Or whether they've actually sat down and said, this is how we're going to fold T-shirts. We're always going to have the neck kind of pointing to the right side and fold it in this particular order, or is it always an arbitrary task? And I would think in many cases that depending on what you want to get out of it, would you want to have a very rigid sort of way of doing it? Because again, there's sort of, some people might argue, kind of a perfect way to fold a T-shirt versus many different ways. And when I think about it, when I fold a T-shirt, I don't actually have the neck to my left or to the right. I usually have it pointing away from me. That's how I fold a T-shirt.
Sure.
Hans, how do you fold your T-shirts? Does that look like the way you do it?
Not too far off.
Yeah, I think it's okay. So
okay.
Hans, you counted.
Minority, huh?
You counted 6
that actually put the neck to the front and not to the left or the right. Wow, we should do a poll on that to find out what people actually do. How do you fold a T-shirt? Okay.
So you counted 6 bots, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and there's somewhere another one.
Yeah. So there's
Right there.
the first one that's hanging. There's another one down there. So there's 3 hanging kind of in a row with Gen 2, and then there's another 3 hanging behind. And the only reason I can see the 3 hanging behind is because I've got it, on full screen here. And so you can see one wobbling to the left of the first Gen 1 bot, and then one on the right-hand side as well. That's right behind his head. And so, there's kind of 3 in a row in the back and then 3 in a row here in the front. Okay. There may be more than that, but those are just the ones that I can see in the frame.
Okay. And then we're seeing here, this looks like a charger that you would use for the car on the wall, and yet that's might be what they're using, right?
Yes. Right. Now,
Well, no, so
one of
that's
the
what I
biggest
was
problems.
saying. I think that might be where the FSD computer is for the teleoperator, more so than a charger. And it could be a charger.
Now, one of the biggest
Y-
problems with X video is that you can't go full screen with it. So the only way to do this is you do have to get a screenshot, and then you have to go in and try to zoom in to see it. Because I miscounted at first. I thought, oh, I only see 4 bots there, and I thought there were 4 Gen 2s just because the resolution is really bad. It's only when you begin to zoom in that you realize, oh, that's definitely a Gen 1, a Gen 1, and Gen. I'm not sure whether that's a Gen 1 or Gen 2. So I can clearly see a couple of Gen 1s and clearly at least one Gen 2, the one that's doing the folding, and there may be
mhm.
some others around there. And it may be that the count is 7 or something like that, because every now and then there's like, oh, wait a minute, I think I see yet one more hanging back there that's hard to see. So we see 1, 2, 3 clearly right there on the left side, plus the one that's folding, that's 4. And then I think if you are able to zoom a little bit more, you might see like still another one back there. So it's hard to tell what the official count is there. I think it's at least 6. It's possible there's 7 there.
Well, there's 7 total that I can see. There's
There's
6
one right
Gen
there.
1s. Yeah,
Okay,
and then 1
so there
Gen
are
2.
7. Yep. 7.
Yep.
Yeah, and that's what I wasn't sure is that some of the others, I'm just assuming at this point, are the Gen 1s. They were really hard to tell, but in some cases the giveaway was like I could see the feet. I was like, oh, those are the Gen 1 feet. Or you saw the torso kind of clearly. So the one that we're seeing right here, I think that's a Gen 1. It's a little bit hard to tell because it's not quite as clear. We don't have as clear a shot of the torso and everything, but I think the head doesn't have the display that goes around it, the kind of the beard that you would sort of say that
Yeah,
you could sort of see
other
in the
Gen
Gen
ones for
2
sure.
seems to be
Yep.
missing. So I'm saying, oh, that's probably Gen 1, probably Gen 1, but it's a little bit hard because of the graininess of everything to know for sure. But I
Mhm.
suspect that, yeah, those are all Gen 1s. And again, the big question is like, why are they there if they're kind of obsolete right now in being worked on?
Yeah, so these 4680 batteries are right here, but look over there. They're over there as well. So this looks
Hmm.
like a common task that they're training multiple robots to either help pack 4680s. That's what they're doing, right? They're going to pack them.
That's
You think?
weird to me because
Look at
they
that.
already have a lot of automation for packing of these batteries.
Okay. All right.
I don't see any reason why you do it manually. Those things are fully automated to be able to do the packing, right down to the modules and everything, the testing and stuff. So they set these systems. The battery packs arrive in boxes. The boxes get cut open by robots, and and then it goes to these inspection stations, and then they kind of clear them out and classify them based on what they have. And they go up somewhere else, and then you have these other bots that are able to come in and kind of pick them up, almost like rows at a time, and just drop them in right where they need to be. So that's kind of a mystery on why those battery packs are there, unless it's just part of training, just to have fun moving these things around. But then again,
Okay.
why would you use
And what? Yeah,
batteries
multiple tables.
for
Yeah.
something else?
And
Yeah.
then Scott has pointed out that if you look at the people behind this, they look like it's not sped up. This is real time. And so this is how
Hmm.
fast he's working. Oh, but again, it's teleoperated, right? So what do you think,
Right,
Scott?
right. Exactly. And teleoperation is going to be kind of slow because it's pretty hard to do a task like this teleoperated. It's already hard enough to fold t-shirts as far as I'm concerned. But when you're trying to do it teleoperated, you're going to be a little bit slow because you're going to see everything. Now, my assumption is because they need to have the same point of view as Optimus, they are seeing through the cameras of Optimus. So probably wearing goggles while doing this to be able
Hmm.
to see everything, as well
But
as
the
moving
head's
whatever.
not looking downwards though, right? Like if I
It,
was doing
it,
it, I'd look down, wouldn't I?
it's a little bit, and depending on how the AR screen is set up. So I
Could
would
they
think
have
that there,
cameras elsewhere other than in the front of the eyes? Because
I
or do you
think there's
think
6 cameras. There's 6 cameras.
so? Where's the
So
other
there's
two? What is he?
2 eyes. There's 2 kind of over towards the ears, and there's 2 down in the chin because that's what we've seen with the headsets in the
Okay.
Gen 1. That the
Okay.
headset
There's
definitely was showing 6.
gotcha. So there's two down the chin.
Hmm.
Do you see anything different about the Gen 2 to what you've seen previously of the Gen 2?
Of the Gen 2, nothing that sticks out to me. So I think it's basically the same as what we've seen before.
Okay.
And we know there's at least 2 Gen 2 bots because we saw that in the release. The 2 of them dancing next to each other.
Mhm. And then what's
Herbert,
this? Yep. Go ahead.
can you pull up Milan's tweet that I just put in the private chat? So he's adding a little bit of extra context that it might be good to
Oh, this is
bring
great.
into the conversation here.
Who's Milan Kovak?
Yep.
Okay,
So
Milan is
Milan
the head of the Optimus project.
Yes.
Okay, let me just go ahead and share my screen here. Can you read it?
It's not coming up yet.
Oh, sorry.
There we go. So it says exceedingly complex tasks through teleoperation, and the reason doing is it would like to verify that the current hardware has the dexterity to do the tasks in the first, so that just like Scott was saying, that means that from there it's just a software and AI problem. That as long as the architecture is able to do what it needs to do, then they know that they have isolated the work to a software problem. Then the other thing is they're trying to collect data needed to train the end-to-end nets to do it autonomously, just like the color sorting and unsorting that they showed last year. And also they need to do this to accumulate data diversity to generalize faster. And so this is what Elon was referring to, where he was talking about an abstract or a general environment. And so, yeah, wrapping up with who wouldn't want help with folding clothes. I know that that's, almost the first thing that everyone says. I want something that can fold my laundry. I think that's probably task number one.
I think we can name one person. We know a person, Herbert, don't we? That
Alexandra.
desperately wants Alexandra. Yes.
No, but I mean, I think folding clothes is obviously, like you said, it's the number one thing people hate doing, but it also shows the dexterity. If it can fold clothes, it can do anything. So this Milan Kovak is saying this, right? So he's this sounds very, very confident that they're going to be able to do this, and he did confirm that this is end-to-end neural nets that's going to do this.
Yes. And the other thing is that when we talked about the Optimus picking up the eggs, that was done because that's always been a challenge in robotics, is coming up with a gripper that can pick up an egg without breaking it, and at the same time being able to pick up other heavier objects. So having a dual purpose manipulator that can do that. So that's really the point of that, was showing everyone that knows of that problem that goes way back to the 80s. Oh yeah, we can do that. But folding laundry has been a very difficult task. Anything to do with fabric has been extremely difficult for robots to do. So that's another reason to show something like that, is that the capability is there. Now, all this did is it kind of confirmed what we already knew from Aloha, is Aloha proved that you did not need a whole lot of dexterity to do it. This is just the confirmation that, yeah, Optimus can do it as well. We were expecting that. Because
here's the big confirmation. Here's the big confirmation from what I'm reading from Elon Kovac's tweet right here. Verify that our current hardware has the dexterity to do those tasks. Now, mostly software AI work. What does that mean, Scott? That means we are design locked. That's what that means. Yes. We are design locked. What we have here in Gen 2 is done. Now it's going to be mostly software and AI work. That's a big deal right there.
Right.
That's a confirmation for the first time.
Right, with a few tweaks here and there, probably going along, but which means if they want to, they can start spooling up parts of the production process. And if there's a few things they have to change in the mechanics, they can probably tweak that along the way. But it seems to me they could start scaling this at any moment they want to. They may just be waiting until they really have the software locked down, or they could decide we're going to start building a warehouse full of these things. And then once we have the software, we will have that bot army ready to go out and use. So that's pretty much where they are on the decision of what they want to do next. Do they want to wait on the scaling, or are they ready to go ahead and do that now? The other thing I think is rather interesting, that again, what Aloha proved, that we've always sort of said, is that you don't need the same kind of sensory input that we're used to with a human. And we're used to having really good tactile input, and the feeling was to do any of these tasks, tactile input's extremely important. And for the teleoperation, you have very little tactile input. You get a little bit of haptic feedback, maybe, depending upon how the teleoperation is set up, so that when you go to close a gripper, you may or may not get the feedback from your end, depending upon how they're connected. So usually this is done, over a wired kind of connection, so it may or may not have that. In the old days, telerobots were actually cabled together. So when you tried to close a gripper on the robot with the mechanical gripper you had your side, you felt the force of closing that down. You kind of knew, oh, I'm grasping an object now and I'm applying. I can feel the force that I'm having. So I'm assuming they have a certain amount of that. And Aloha would have no more than that. They would not have the touch sensing like we saw in Optimus. So they were able to do a lot without the touch sensing. And I suspect Optimus should still have been able to do this even without the touch sensing. But you throw that touch sensing in there, and that opens up other possibilities that you're not even aware of, because the whole idea of what they're doing is that they were using the eyes, and the eyes turn out to be the most important sensor of them all. We can do a lot of things just with our eyes. We can know to pick up an egg, and we don't need very good haptic feedback on the egg because we know the egg is fragile because our brain tells us it's fragile, as opposed to picking up a baseball. I can squeeze a baseball really hard without consequence. But when I go to pick up that egg, I better be careful with that. And that's not coming from haptic feedback. That's coming from my knowledge base and my feeling that as I close my fingers, I've suddenly come up to something that's kind of solid. I better be very, very careful going forward. But now you add something else. So someone talked about wanting to thread a nut on the end of a bolt. Well, that's something that's pretty easy to do. We can see it. But how many times have you had to thread a bolt where you couldn't see the bolt?
Mm-hmm.
You kind of knew it was back there, but your vision was obscured a little bit. That kind of came a little bit from a feel, didn't it? So there may be some situations that you want to have a little bit more sensory data in there. Kind of going to what James has talked about, we can count the change in our pockets without seeing it because our touch is that good. I don't think you need that level of detail in there, but boy, it's not bad to have a little bit of it, is it?
Yeah. Okay. And then Tesla's vision allows it to recognize it's an egg, and it's the only one that
Mm-hmm.
actually knows that it's an egg, versus other
Mm-hmm.
robot manufacturers don't necessarily work on that. Let me show you this. So this is a lot of hiring. Tesla's hiring a lot of people for the bot. They just added this on their page, on the career page, a link to see opportunities. And look at these. This is manufacturing jobs. Okay. These are jobs on the factory ready to help build actuators, to build the bots. There are so many of these jobs. There's autopilot and robotics business job openings. Oops, sorry. And then this is the autopilot and robotics jobs. More of them. This is how many they're hiring, including night shift. So many people working night shifts here, as you can see this. And then obviously remote also. And then look at this words here. It says here in the job opening here in LinkedIn for a senior sensor hardware design engineer. Production work with manufacturing and test teams and suppliers to achieve high volume mass production with high yield. They are ready for high mass production, guys. This is what this is saying.
They're ramping up. They're getting ready to go to scale, and they're talking about the engineers that we're going to be getting certain things from our suppliers. We need to make sure that they're able to provide those at the scale that we need and with the quality that we expect.